Imagine watching your 3-year-old become weak, clingy, emotional, and unwell. They're constantly thirsty, drinking far more than usual, losing weight, not meeting milestones the way you would expect. And as a parent, you know something just isn't right. What many families don't realise is that these can be the warning signs of type 1 diabetes, a serious medical condition that, if left untreated, can become life-threatening. Early recognition truly can save lives. Welcome to SatNaving Life. My name is McGirl. I'm a qualified nurse and a health and safety trainer. In this education podcast, I speak with emotionally agile people who faced life challenges and found ways to navigate them with resilience, courage, and hope. Today's episode focuses on type 1 diabetes. I'm joined by Ruth and her son Fiachra, who was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at just 3.5 years of age.
He's the middle of 3 children. He was stealing his younger brother's bottle because he was 1. And one day we measured it and he drank 3 litres. With us managing his thirst, he still drank 3 litres.
I am diabetic, but I am so many other things. So I can't let diabetes be the biggest thing.
We decided very early on there was nothing diabetes was going to stop Fiachra from doing. And that was a very conscious decision.
Together, they shared the reality behind the diagnosis, the warning signs, fear, the hospital stays, the injections, the sleepless nights, and the resilience it takes to keep moving forward as a family. And I'm truly grateful to Ruth and Fiachra for sharing their story today. Welcome to episode 3, season 1 of SatNaving Life. And I am absolutely thrilled to be here with Ruth and Fiachra. Fiachra is Ruth's 21-year-old son, although she looks more like his sister.
Oh, thank you. Love you, Carol.
So different. So we're just going to start off. Fiachra, you were diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when you were just 3 years old. Ruth, as Fiachra's mom, would you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about that experience with us? Looking back now, what were the first signs or changes you began to notice in him, and what made you feel that something wasn't quite right?
Looking back on it was so obvious. Fiachra was a sick child. He developed asthma 2.5.
Okay.
He was constantly coming down with colds. He was just not a very well child. He was so small. His speech was way behind what it should be. He had so few words. We had a speech language appointment set up for him.
Okay.
Maybe 2 or 3 weeks this was going on, where he had this desperate thirst. Okay. I drink my coffee black normally. He was trying to steal the dregs in the bottom of the black coffee.
Oh.
He was stealing, he's the middle of 3 children. He was stealing his younger brother's bottle because he was 1. And one day we measured it and he drank 3 litres. With us managing his thirst, he still drank 3 litres. What's wrong with the child? We don't know, but we knew there was something wrong.
And what about his mood, Ruth?
Not great. A very needy, whingy, clingy. All the things that are right. Sorry, oh, you dearly. You were a pain. Like I was walking
Alone.
down. Well, the child stuck to my leg. There was something wrong, but we couldn't figure out what.
Oh my God, you were immunocompromised, obviously.
The whole system was out of whack.
Yeah.
So like, you look for very clear signs.
Yeah.
The thirst was a very clear sign, but generally, overall, just wrong.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
So at that point, we said it's time to go to the GP. Took him into the GP, and she did a little urine dip with a little strip to test, and she recognised it as diabetes. The doctor said, "Can you get him to the A&E?" And I went, "Yes, okay, hang on. I have 2 other kids who my mum was minding at that stage, a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. I said, right, okay, I have to get home. So she flagged it as urgent emergency. Now we got him to hospital and he was seen very, very promptly and the whole system worked. He was taken up to the children's ward and he was there for a week. Most kids are diagnosed by being brought in unconscious to the A&E, which is traumatic, huge for both parents, child, family, the drama of it all, the not knowing, the time the child's unconscious while they get them to the hospital, all of that. We didn't have that, thank goodness, so we got him in early. It was a shock.
Yeah.
It was a surprise. We didn't see it coming. Instead of all the things I considered it could be, And I was aware 10, 12-year-olds could be diabetic. I wasn't aware that 3.5-year-old could be diabetic. I've since met parents whose child was diagnosed at 6 weeks. Like, so it's there, and to be aware that it's there. Initial shock. But the other thing was, it was the explanation for what was wrong with him. Thinking back to poor, sick, unhappy Fiachra, and then within a day, switched on what you see and what you hear. His speech came on like instantly, because his body had been working uphill against this. He'd been working so hard. Whenever I was having a bad day, going, oh my goodness, how do we learn about this? There was a huge learning involved in it. How do we keep him right? The light at the end of the tunnel was he went instantly from this sick little boy to a bouncy nuisance that we had to try and keep in a hospital bed for a week, right? He was hopping off walls as a normal 3.5-year-old would be. So that was the bit that gave him comfort. Now, he was on 2 injections a day, MDI, multiple daily injections. Blood sugars by a finger prick 4 times a day, 8 times a day, sometimes more if he was sick. And no child liked injections. And it was in his tiny wee 3.5-year-old thighs, because that was the only bit of meat that was on him. And people say to me, oh, I couldn't do that. You'd be surprised what you can do when you have to. The hospital are very, very good. He had what he needed within 48 hours. They could have released him, but they keep him in for a week to educate the parents. They were very, very good in just, in giving us the confidence to take him home. The big fear was that I would get it wrong and cause long-term complications with him. That long-term highs can damage the smaller blood vessels, so circulation of fingers and toes, kidneys, eyes. They can all be really badly damaged by diabetes. And that was the bit that I had a fear that if I messed up with a 3.5-year-old, trying to figure out that high-low thing, oh, look, we thought he was going low, no, he's actually high, we need some more insulin, etc. So that was one of the big concerns, and still would be. Like, it's in the background, the nastiness of what can happen. And the other thing, we would have checked him regularly during the night for years afterwards. And it's only as he started taking control of his own diabetes that we've stepped away from that. So the number of times where he had a cold, kids get sick, and it meant we were setting alarms every 2 hours to check. Or, when he's well, he used to play rugby, and talking about the emotions knocking the diabetes out of the park. So we had to let him run high, have the activity, watch for about half time, check him there, maybe boost him up with a little bit more sugar to keep him going. And then 6 to 8 hours afterwards, there would be a crash from activity. It's rough, huge for both parents, child, family.
Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune condition and is very different to type 2 diabetes. While both conditions involve the pancreas and a hormone called insulin, the causes and the way that they develop are completely different. So let's look at what was happening for Fiachra. In type 1 diabetes, the body's immune system mistakenly begins attacking the pancreas, specifically the cells responsible for producing insulin. For reasons that are still not fully understood, the body essentially turns against itself. There may be triggers such as infections or other environmental factors, and some people may be more genetically predisposed, but there is no single definite cause. Type 1 diabetes accounts for approximately 10% of all diabetes cases and is most commonly diagnosed during childhood. Insulin has a very important role within the body. A simple way to think about it is that insulin acts like a key. So when we eat carbohydrates or sugar, they're broken down into glucose and enter our bloodstream. The pancreas normally responds by releasing insulin into the blood. That insulin then acts like a key, unlocking the body's cells, which allows glucose to leave the bloodstream and enter the cells where it is needed for energy. But in type 1 diabetes, because the pancreas is no longer producing enough insulin, or in some cases any insulin at all, the glucose cannot enter the cells properly. Instead, the glucose builds up in the bloodstream, so even though there's plenty of sugar in the blood, the body's cells are effectively starving of energy, and this is why some children may become really tired, weak, irritable, clingy, and just not themselves. They may start losing weight rapidly despite eating normally, or they may be constantly hungry. The body then desperately tries to remove the excess glucose through the kidneys. This leads to excessive urination and intense thirst. A child may start drinking constantly and needing to go to the toilet far more than usual. As the body loses fluid, it's also losing really important electrolytes, which can make the child even more unwell. There can be other warning signs. There may be sweet-smelling urine or breath, slow healing of wounds, abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, poor circulation. If type 1 diabetes is not recognised and treated quickly, the condition can become extremely life-threatening. The body can begin to shut down as glucose levels continue to rise and the organs struggle then to function properly. This is why awareness of the warning signs is so important for all of us, for parents, families, teachers, and anyone caring for children. Early recognition and treatment truly can save lives.
Personally, I would say that it's nearly better to view type 1 and type 2 as completely separate because they share the same common denominator of insulin dependence and you have to manage it yourself. And I think that's what people get caught up on is they see diabetes and they learn about one and then can't figure out how the other works. So whenever I'm trying to tell people how it works, I say, I'm going to talk to you about type 1. Type 1 is a lifelong affliction. You can't grow out of it. And the other one is completely separate. The treatment, the cause, the effects, how it portrays is all different. The only similarity is insulin. It can be an issue when people keep bringing it up. Nobody does it out of harm, but there is a huge distinction between the two. And that would be one of the big pet peeves with diabetes is when people mix them up. I am diabetic, but I am so many other things. So I can't let diabetes be the biggest thing.
We decided very early on there was nothing diabetes was going to stop Fiachra from doing. And that was a very conscious decision. And there's times when we worked quite hard to make sure that happened. One of the examples would be I went on every primary school tour with him, which was joyful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was not entirely self-sufficient, but enough that I could go off for the half hour of the school tour. So Mum would lay towards the back of the tour. They weren't mollycoddling me, but it was for lunch times, when everyone getting sweets handed out or stuff. They may have been my own checking over. I couldn't manage myself. There was always the talk of, okay, so your blood sugars are high, so we're going to have to do an injection now, or we're just going to measure out how much you're eating. So I knew what was going on, and whenever going off on school tours, I had my little bag, hugely distinctive. It meant I could carry my sugars on my back. It meant I carried my blood testing kit. I knew how to test my bloods by the time I went to school. I don't remember life beforehand, so I've made to a diagnosed at 10 or 12, and the difference in life, because they go to play sport, they have to learn this thing now. I just always ate lunch at that time.
Yeah.
The way the kids in primary school treated me was mainly they didn't quite understand, but it was dealt with. Like, there was an SMA in our school.
And the other thing was in the playgrounds when whatever teacher in primary school was on duty and they might not have taught Fiachra and that nervousness around, oh my goodness, diabetic, okay, which one is he? Do you remember you went through a phase of having really odd hats? That started because we went, he's the one with the squid hat.
Oh,
Yes.
There was general things throughout my childhood where finding out what works best for you. So I had a ladybug hat, I had a squid hat, I had a minion hat, things like that, which makes me identifiable if you know that's what it is. Things like the Muppet bag or very bright coloured runners. And I loved bright colours.
So you
And
used to dress him like he could be seen from space. So it meant that you're not familiar with him. You say, right, watch out for the guy in the luminous orange.
sure.
Talking about sport, the number of coaches we had to talk to. Obviously, coach was a bit nervous. And we said, look, we'll generally manage the whole thing. We'll be on the sidelines. Or in one case, your daddy became an athletics coach to get you doing athletics. One of the sadnesses I've had about it, we were at a party and people are grazing, bowls of sweets and crisps and children are falling face down the tins of roses. Fiachra couldn't do that. He had to come up with us with this plateful and out and we tried to manage it and say, you can have what you want, but you can't have it yet. Now, a box of chocolates in front of you, if you have that discipline, I don't. But Fiachra, as a 7, 8, 9-year-old, had to. And that used to make me very, very sad in in gatherings, in parties. There were mornings his injection didn't get done. We missed the injection. We were not the perfect family. And there was one famous morning where Daddy injected him and then I injected him. So he had to spend the day being constantly blood glucose tested with the finger pricks to make sure he's okay and constantly fed. And he had to sit in his dad's office while this was happening because we couldn't leave him with anybody.
So, Fiachra, we've heard from your mum about the fear, the responsibility, and everything that goes with managing your condition. But from your perspective, what was it like trying to navigate injections, monitoring, the constant awareness that comes with your diabetes management?
There's two insulins you can inject. One is a long-acting one and one's a short-acting one. Long-acting means that you inject in the morning and it'll take 12 hours to break down your system and slowly deliver little bursts of insulin. And short-acting is the one I'd be talking about now, which takes 15 minutes. But then I went from injection morning, evening to having this little box on my hip and a little wire that went from the box to a sort of a
Cannula.
Yeah, and it's stuck on me the whole time with a little plastic tube through the middle, and that goes into me, and that gets replaced every 2.5 days. You suddenly have essentially a wallet stuck to your waist. It's like a big MP3 player, and then a wire trailing out from this. So it's sticking out from your clothes. People asking what that is. It's rubbing against your skin. So aside from how the pump functioned, it was a big thing to get used to having this here. So my initial thoughts on it were, I don't like this. But then very quickly I realized in the morning I wake up and I go and I eat what breakfast I want. Because the short-acting insulin means I put an insulin 15 minutes beforehand. So if I say I'm really hungry this morning, I eat 40 grams of porridge. I eat double the amount. And that's grand. So I have to calculate how much food I eat. And then I put that into the pump. And the pump will calculate how many units of insulin to put in. And then puts it in. If I decide that I don't want to eat for another hour, I could delay it and no longer have that issue of having to eat dead on time.
Some people stay on injections forever. Okay, so it's not just you have to be on pump. With the injections, the food had to match the insulin. The insulin was on board, whereas with the pump, the insulin matches the food.
Once it dawned on me that this gave me control, as my mum just said, the food now matched me. I didn't match the food in the schedule. So now I was feeling hungry, I ate. I was going to do activity. I could do the activity far easier because I could change the insulin, and it gave me huge control. If I felt I was going high, it's done, it's fixed. Whereas before was a whole rigmarole of trying to get it down. So this was life-changing. Genuinely, in the most literal way, use of the word, it changed my life. They check if you're actually doing it correctly. I made a pump for my teddy bear. So my teddy bear had this tube sellotaped to his bum, and he had the little box, and I'd drawn all the buttons and stuff on it. And it had changed my life so much in the week and a half that I'd given my teddy bear this pump because he now feels better.
Ruth, as Fiachra got older and started taking more responsibility for his diabetes himself, what was that transition like for you? Was it difficult at times to let go and trust him to manage things more?
I realised it was going to be long term. Like, we would gladly have taken us off here, but there's no way of doing that. So we had to make sure that he could be in the best position for managing how he is, which he is doing superbly. Life is going very well at the moment, which is great. It's exactly where you want them to be. But it was a sort of gradual process of letting the string go longer and longer, which is normal parenting.
I'm fully in control of my diabetes. I took over when I was 12. That was the point of starting to do it myself, obviously with support the whole way and very gradually more and more responsibility. By that stage, I knew to respect the diabetes. I can't go around going, Mommy, Daddy didn't see me eating a biscuit, therefore the diabetes didn't. I know one has the effect on the other. By the time I was about 15, 16, I was completely doing it myself, really. I have a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, in the back of my arm. It gets replaced once a week. And it's another tiny little needle. It's constantly monitoring little drops of blood, and it checks my blood sugar. I generally get someone to help me because it can be very awkward. But I realised that whenever I came back home from college and I needed help, I had to walk my parents through doing this for the first time ever.
You were teaching them?
Yeah, I was the one in control. I was going over to my appointments by myself, and My parents were now no longer involved. It's a real statement of you have something under control. Now I have learned things that they didn't teach me. I've gone down my own path. I'm still working.
I think that'll stand to you in life. You are a remarkably resilient person. And nobody is ever strong all the time. Nobody's ever right all the time. Nobody's ever in great form all the time. We are all allowed to have emotional wobbles, moments, whatever. But overall, you're remarkably resilient.
One of the big indicators of me going low or a bad low is coming is when I'll be trying to sit there doing work. I'll be writing something and I'll be staring at a line. I'll be something I know. It's in my head. I can do it. And I'm sitting there staring at it going, what is that number? What do I do with this? Or what was I doing with this? Time goes funny.
Yeah.
I could be sitting there for 10 minutes, dazed, staring at a copybook, not realizing that I've been going low for half an hour. You realize you're going low and you're just you're pushing it through. I'll check my bloods and go, I'm going low. Well, take a sugar, treat it. Your blood sugars may be a little bit high. Your body goes, we need to correct this now. They send loads of endorphins and stuff. You get really, really active. You're hyperactive. You're burning all the sugar up you can. And then your blood sugar overcorrects. You start to go low. And your body goes, oh, we're running out of fuel. Eat. And so suddenly you're eating everything you can. Chocolate bars, raisins. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's vaguely edible, it's a conscious decision when I start to switch over to eating nuts and cheese. It's a decision in my head to go, I have enough fuel on board. I don't need this. But my body won't accept me stopping. So I keep eating what stuff I know is not going to affect me. I'm eating tables full of food. And so the body starts really pumping the blood. You've got cold sweats, you're hyperactive, and you're all over the place. When your stomach goes, okay, something's wrong, people start to throw up. And now you've got rid of the fuel out of your system, but you've also started to do your emergency fuel burning. So now you go really low and you eat even more sugar. And this can happen over the course of a day, a week. The end stage is that you either go so high that your body clogs your kidneys, or your liver just goes, I can't do it. And you go into DKA, or diabetic ketoacidosis. And that's when people go unconscious and get brought to hospital. Or you go so low that you collapse. The car has run out of fuel and you just pass out.
We're expecting to be able to look at somebody with type 1 diabetes and say, oh, he has these symptoms, he must be high. We need to get extra insulin in him. Or he has these symptoms, he must be low. We need to get extra sugar in him. But in reality, it can look the same. Okay. Pale, sweaty, argumentative, out of control, not making sense. Can be at both ends of the scale.
So going out on a night out, the biggest thing was I have mates who know what diabetes is. If they see me lula in the bar stumbling about the place, they're going to come up and go, are your blood sugars all right? I get really giddy and antsy and sweaty. And I'm sitting there sort of shivering a bit. So a little insulin pump. I press some buttons and it puts insulin in through the cannula. And 15 minutes later, the insulin starts to work. If I'm sick, my bloods will go crazy either way, or emotions are huge. They're one of the biggest things affecting blood sugars. Going into exams, my blood sugars will skyrocket. I'm anxious and full of adrenaline. I'm sitting there and my blood sugars just shoot way up. The big thing is that it's never an instant fix.
Normal range for a type 1 diabetic is between 4 and 10. We're probably 5.4, 5.8. We have a much tighter range because our pancreas works, even with pump, with knowledge, even with being on top of it. The range for type 1 diabetic has to be bigger because it's so hard to try and do that artificially.
A big thing is that if you have diabetes, it's worth putting the time in to try and understand what's going on and what works for you. But also your support network is very important. Your family, even if they don't understand it fully, to know that they will help you. Everyone gets things wrong. It's a journey. Yeah, it's never one I've allowed myself the mindset of, oh, poor me. And neither of my parents. They've been pushing me forward with the mindset of, you're going to cope with this. It's an issue. It's awful. It's tough. But keep one foot in front of the other. Keep going. And that is the best way to deal with it. If you're going to hit issues, you're going to go around them. So that's...
It's coming from the idea that, like, you have this. There's no way out of having this. You can't have a day off. You can't say, oh, I'll deal with that tomorrow. So therefore, trying to give you the skills that you can keep going with this. Myself and my husband, in Fiachra, we were lucky that I could sometimes say in the morning, you go and wake him up. You go and see that he's okay this morning. So I did have not days off, but times off. Whereas Fiachra doesn't get time off.
They have such a solid base in the understanding of diabetes and a good habit set. It makes life much easier now to have all of that experience in my back pocket, to have the mindset of get up and keep going whenever you have off days, because you will have off days. Like, you are never doing this alone, and it's foolish to try and do it alone. So if my blood sugars are going bad, it's well worth talking to someone about it. 2 bad days in a row isn't the end of the world, as long as you try and improve it. That if you survive till tomorrow, then there's no real fallout from it. Don't become complacent.
To echo what you were saying, that if things are getting out of control, to look for help, whether that is emotionally or medically or a mixture of both, probably. And that you need some people to hold your hand and say, oh, you're having a bad day. I need other people to give you the information to fix the bad day.
Yeah, everyone is very different.
Absolutely. It's been lovely to have this space to talk through about things and to hear your version of events, which is interesting.
It has been very fun to see how you started things and how that have impacted us later on and that sort of thing.
Yeah. No, so it's been very positive. Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. As we come to the end of today's episode, one of the most important messages to take away from Ruth and Fiachra's story is the importance of awareness. Type 1 diabetes is a serious autoimmune condition that can become life-threatening if it is not recognised and treated early. And yet many of the early warning signs can look like everyday childhood illnesses or behaviours. That constant thirst, the frequent urination, exhaustion, clinginess, weight loss, changes in mood, or simply a child who just doesn't seem like themselves anymore. What Ruth shared today is something many parents will relate to, that instinctive feeling that something just isn't right. And thankfully, because signs were recognised early, Fiachra got the treatment he needed before things became more critical. What has been really highlighted today is the significant difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune condition where the body's immune system mistakenly attacks the insulin-producing cells of the pancreas, whereas type 2 diabetes is completely different and is generally related to the body becoming resistant to insulin or not producing enough insulin over time. The two conditions are often confused, and that can be really frustrating for individuals and families living with type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is not caused by eating too much sugar or anything a parent did wrong, and understanding that distinction is important if we are to reduce the misconceptions that many families continue to face. From a first aid perspective, high blood sugars and low blood sugars can sometimes present differently. High blood sugar is mostly treated by the affected person before it becomes an emergency, as it develops more gradually. The person may have increased thirst, frequent urination, increased hunger, sweet-smelling breath, rapid breathing, and warm, dry skin. Low blood sugar often has a more sudden onset, and for this reason, this is the most common presentation to a first aid responder. It may cause poor coordination, unusual behaviour, cool, clammy skin, confusion, or a reduced level of consciousness. As explained during today's conversation, every person is different, and signs and symptoms do not always follow a textbook description. That's why it is so important to pay attention to the person in front of you and not just the condition itself. Fiachra highlights the importance of educating the people around you. His friends know what to do if he needs help. If a person with diabetes is conscious and needs sugar, helping them to sit down and safely take a sugary drink or food might be appropriate. If they do not improve or their condition causes concern, emergency services should be contacted immediately by calling 112 or 999. If a person becomes unconscious, the priorities remain the same as any other medical emergency. Call emergency services. Ensure the scene is safe, check for response, assess airways and breathing, and place the person into the recovery position if they're breathing normally. Make sure somebody has accessed emergency services and an AED, and if the person stops breathing, begin CPR without delay. Today's conversation connects so well with the idea behind this podcast, SatNaving Life. None of us get to choose every road we travel. Sometimes life takes us onto roads we never expected to be on. But as we've heard today, with knowledge, support, awareness, courage and connection, it is possible to keep moving forward. So whether you're living with type 1 diabetes yourself, parenting a child with it, supporting somebody through it, or simply learning more about it today, I really hope this conversation has brought greater understanding, awareness, and compassion. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you in the next episode.